out. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and we're going to go around, whoever wants to speak on it. And the first one is, what advice, let's say this, how was the senior project different than you might have anticipated? Was it a surprise? Anybody, anything that jumps out that was different than you thought?
Well, personally, I just didn't think I'd enjoy it as much as I did. Like, I picked a topic that I cared about, and that really set me up to succeed in the whole thing.
I think if you go at it from a perspective that this is going to be a good thing and not something dreadful, then it'll work out better for you, just because then you're more open to it. And plus, if you pick a good topic, then you'll want to do it. It's not something that you additionally have to do.
Anybody else on that topic? How about what's a good way to go about choosing a topic?
Just choose something that you like to do. Like, think about like habits you have now, like things you like to look at your free time, things you read, things you listen to, things like that you really enjoy, and try to formulate an idea based off of that. Because if you choose the right topic, like, everything's easy, and you're gonna have a great time and love your project.
Also, Mrs. Moyer gives you so many packets to do. Not so many. It's not a lot. But she'll give you packets to do as a junior whenever you guys start meeting. And through that, you see maybe what career path you should take, and you're looking introspectively to see what your passions are. So definitely just listen to yourself. Don't choose something that you think that your parents would really like you to do. Molly, or choosing something that just seems more impressive, because whatever you do, if you put your heart into it, it'll make it more impressive.
I would say don't confine yourself to a box of what you think you're capable of. When I was a freshman, I wanted to do mine on personalities, and then after that, I wanted to do it on politics. And if you know my political history of where I've definitely swayed, I think at one point in my high school career, I called myself a socialist. So I apologize for my actions. But don't confine yourself to a box and think this is what I'm passionate about and capable of, without exploring outside of that box. Because I spent most of my high school career not really exploring different areas of what I was most passionate about. And I would say one of the contributing factors of why I chose this project specifically is when I led that chapel on Samwise, if you guys remember that from last year. That kind of just like brought out that I was like, oh, teaching is great. So experiment, don't confine yourself, and just give a lot of ideas, give it a go, I guess I would say. Just experiment.
Everybody can hear me, right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Oh, that's really loud. If you could go back and change one thing, other than the whole, I waited until 3 weeks before this was due to do my PFL. Like during the summer, what is one thing that you guys wish you could have done more? Like before we even start school, before you can even start the parts of your project where you need the student body. Like what are things that you guys wish you could have gone back and done more of?
Definitely for me, I think that the biggest thing I figured out is communicating with people who have already been through this throughout your project. Just because you'll hit some points where you're like, oh, I mean, the packet tells me what I need to do, but like I'm still not 100% sure. So like any of us I know would be willing to help you. So just kind of communicate with people who've already been through it and can guide you through that.
Get your research done in the summer. It will just clear up so much time for you to do more stuff.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Rudy said, get your research done so you have a firm basis and foundation on what you're studying for your project. So, like, you yourself do know what you're talking about.
Also, if you have to do interviews or anything like that, I mean, I did mine in like early September, but still, getting that, like formulating an email and just sending it to people that you possibly want to interview. If you get that done over the summer and then continue and start planning when you're going to meet with those people, that'll be a lot easier than trying to do that on top of classwork and different things that you have to do in the school year.
You will have to do interviews. Every one of you. That's one of the key components, right? It's also what most people hate the most in the beginning. But what order would you do things in? Let's just review that. You kind of said it, but when you talk about professional contact, research, writing, would you reorder the stuff you do? More efficiently?
Well, the way at least I did it is I just started reading books right away, and then I started asking people to interview right away. Like, because if you want high-level professional contacts, they're going to usually have very busy schedules. So the earlier you contact them, the more time you'll have to schedule an interview. So, like, there's people that I emailed in, like, July, and they weren't available till, like, December. But, you know, like, getting ahead of the schedule there and, like, getting things like that done. So, I mean, I would say get your reading done, start emailing people, get your interview scheduled, and then you can start working on the other parts of your project.
Anybody else?
I always have this. Anyway, but I would definitely say to do what you personally have to do that doesn't require anyone else. Definitely do that over the summer if you can. And then also get, like, if you know that you want to do a PFL, then start thinking about it and try to formulate whatever you want to do earlier than the month that you're having it. Because, like, I had a really in-depth PFL, and I started thinking about it in, like, October, and that really helped. So I would definitely say if you have something that involves teaching or organizing a large group of students, definitely start thinking about that before you have to do it.
I'd say just assume everything is going to take twice the amount of time that you think it's going to take. Because I was reading, first off, a lot of times you don't think about the stuff you have to write about your research, and that sneaks up on you, and you have to do a ton of it at the end of your project. I was kind of lucky and got most of that done earlier, but it really will sneak up on you. Yeah.
I can see where people would look at these binders and be terrified. And of course, Abigail has 2 binders. But what's in these binders is, a lot of times, so any kind of surveys you filled out, there'll be 60 of those in there. If you fill out a survey and every student did, they'll put these in the binders and things like that. But really it comes down to one bite at a time, right? You talk about how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. So they could be sitting here like you were last year thinking, how will I ever fill out this binder? But when you look back, it's just one thing at a time, right? Any other questions out here?
So this is something that I've been getting mixed answers on. As in, I'm getting people saying one thing and people saying another. If I'm to do the project on something I care about, something that I want to do, is that going to either make me hate it or feel more fondly of it?
It's really going to make you it's going to make you have both. I hated my project at sometimes, but through it, like fighting through that, I had so much more appreciation for it, and I came out at the other end loving it a ton. But while you're in the middle of it, sometimes it really does feel terrible.
I think it goes back to like how you look at it. So I mean, obviously, if you're like dreading it and making it like some huge thing, even though like if you have to like write a summary on a documentary or something, like don't make it a huge thing so that you're like dreading having to do something that if you were to go into it knowing that it's gonna like help you and that it was super interesting, then it would be more fun and more like easier to write. But I would definitely say it's all in what you do and what you pick. Also, if it's something that you're like absolutely hating by the time that you're presenting it, then maybe it wasn't something you were super passionate about, I guess.
I shouldn't say that it's terrible. I probably misspoke there. It's really, it doesn't feel terrible. It feels overwhelming sometimes is a much better word.
One of the things I've found over the years is that it tends to clarify whether you want to go into something or not. Because once you do a project on it and you spend that much time on it, a lot of times people get to the end and say, I just decided I don't want to do that the rest of my life. It wasn't as much fun as I thought, or I wanted to go into physical therapy, but then when I went and spent 2 weeks there, I thought this is not really what I want to do. And that's one of the goals, right, of this. Any other questions? It's a really good question. How many of you up here experienced a moment where you realized the project was starting to work for you and not against you? That there was some critical mass. Can you explain that? Because, in marathoning, not that I've ever done it, but there's a term in running, like you hit a wall in marathon, and once you get through that, you start to just, I've never run a marathon, you have, and so there's a point where it just starts to, it seems to me the pain gets so bad you just get numb and you have an out-of-body experience. I'm not sure what that's all about, but tell us about your critical mass moment, because that's one of the things that always makes me sad is if somebody works on their project late, they might either never feel that, or they might feel it and be like, if I had done this earlier. And that's why I really encourage you to do your professional contacts early, because a lot of times they can help you or bump you into things that you would never have had access to. They can open a lot of doors for you, but if you do that like in January, you didn't get any of the benefit of it. So let's talk about critical mass in your project and when you might have felt that.
So I guess I'm going to go. I think there were two for me. The first one was when I interviewed Michael Shermer, and it was like early October, mid-October, somewhere in there, because to me at that point, like I'd done all this research and had my opinions, but that's when I was really going to figure out, like, I was like, all right, let's figure out what's true here. Because I think a lot of the time, I don't know how much you guys research like Christianity, atheism, those things. Atheism does a really good job at making Christianity look stupid. Like Richard Dawkins, he's not the smartest atheist out there, but he's very good at saying, oh, you guys have faith? Faith is stupid. No, everyone has faith. And if they say they don't have faith, they're lying to you. And after that interview, I was nervous at first, but as I got through that interview, I was just kind of like rationalizing his beliefs, thinking about what he's saying. And like, he's like, the one thing that really stuck out to me is I'm like, so where'd the universe come from? Like, like we had the Big Bang or whatever you want to call it, what caused the universe. And he's like, well, nothing. And I was just like, so you're the representative of the titans of modern thought and atheism, and you're going to tell me nothing caused the universe? And I was like, and that's what he believes. And at that point, I was like, oh, wow, I really started to enjoy my project after that, because I was like, well, I guess I think I'm on the right side. So it was pretty cool. And then the second thing was with my interview with J. Warner Wallace in December, where he was my last interview, and he just encouraged me to start writing, and then I did it, and then things have just been like exponentially growing. So probably those two things.
So mine was more through a practical application instead of research basis. So when I received my bubbles, I wasn't sure how to complete the personal application aspect of it, but through my day at the farm, I really felt that I gained a new perspective. And so the little activities you plan, while they might not seem like much, when you're, conducting them, pay attention, because those are where, the really big ideas can come from in your project.
I think for me, it was whenever things started getting affirmed by people around me, meaning that for so many months I really wanted to start moving on the Spanish immersion trip, and it wasn't until we got contact back that then I can start actually thinking about it, and that wasn't until like November, and it wasn't until Bob FaceTimed her at like an impromptu meeting, and so, and there was like that, and then whenever my PFL got scheduled, that was like another thing, because a lot of it was just me coming up with ideas in my head, and it wasn't until like my things actually started getting planned and getting figured out that was whenever I started like actually really enjoying it, because I knew that this stuff was actually going to happen.
All right. So, was it worth it? So, don't be afraid of senior project. Be resolved to get through the gauntlet, because it is life-changing for most students to look back and think, I did this. And the goal is to have meltdown moments and then get through them. And because the next time you have a meltdown moment, you won't be here. You might not be with your parents. You might be in university or somewhere else. And the idea is to say, I've been here before. I've been in a meltdown moment before. I've gotten through it. Nothing great that you're going to do is going to be without meltdown moments, period. And if you're doing great things in life, they're going to come all the time. And so that's what the senior project is all about. I know I was rough on some of you guys because, you know, if you say stupid things, I'm going to brush you back. Or if you email me something that's like some kind of smart aleck thing, I'm going to be like, don't ever email that again. You know, because it's a simulation. You don't email. It'd be like if I was a boss or you're emailing work. You just don't. You're not going to talk to your boss like that, and we're not going to let you that. But that doesn't happen very often, and when it does, it's usually a learning experience. So I want to say a couple things to you guys. One, it's the students who continue to raise the standard of senior projects. They are getting so much more sophisticated, so much more professional. And it's not me doing it, it's you guys doing it, constantly seeing this class go, and the next class says, I can do that. And this is maybe all around the finest group of senior project. I think maybe the finest class we've ever had, and just all the way solid, all the way through. And I'd say the first time we've had, we've had senior projects on these topics before, a lot of these topics, but they always ended up being really cool, but more high school level. You guys did things I think we can actually use. We, as a staff, I look at things that I've been wanting to do for 15 years, and you guys got a lot of them done. And it was not easy to do, and so I really appreciate the hard work you guys put in. It is not an easy thing. We ratchet up the pressure to an almost unbelievable amount. We do it on purpose. We live stream you on purpose. We do whatever we can. And I will also say this. I don't know what other schools are like, but every one of you did a great job presenting. And I don't know if it's just because we're awesome and the staff is awesome, but for you guys to stand up there and pull that off and be that organized and that articulate and not be just up there saying the whole time, I'm really, really impressed. I'm almost... I'm pretty amazed by it, by how poised you are under that kind of pressure. It must just be because I'm so warm and snuggly and make you feel good. I don't know. Well, it could be. Anyway, and then I want to say thank you to Mrs. Moyer for working so hard. This is a very difficult job to keep you guys around. And Jared and Dima and particularly Dylan for all the work. It's no fun being back there the whole time. So Dylan, thank you very much. So, thank you guys. I'm really proud of you. You've done, let me tell you something. I'll tell you how you know you did great work. Because you know that if you didn't, I would tell you. And that's the key to senior projects. is that you'll go through a lot of things in life, and people will say, hooray, hooray, when it's not hooray, hooray. And once you, and what that does is it devalues everybody's work. If you didn't do a good job, I would tell you. And that's why you can leave here thinking, I made it through. And I just appreciate the hard work you do, because, you know, I was talking to somebody afterwards and saying, you could go to another school, and if it just your senior project could be reading the whole Bible. Like the amount of time it took to read the whole Bible and do a summary on it would be a senior project in a lot of schools, that amount of work. A lot of schools are like 40 hours work. So when you look at it in that perspective, you guys really did a tremendous amount of work. And I just want you to encourage the juniors. It's easy to sit here and be like, oh, wow, I got to do that next year. And we've had kids leave school before so they don't have to do senior project, more in the beginning when we started it. And now we have some kids coming because of it, and Abby staying because of it. I think Nate Bullock's sisters wants to just do it, right? Oh, hello there. How's it going? Okay, so I'm not sure I quite understand that, but that's a brave thing to do. So I really appreciate that. So, all right, 3:10, we're good. Am I supposed to get?
Yes.
Okay.
We have one order.